So Marvel Rivals has been out for a few weeks now, and I gotta say, this game is really, really good. It is such a fresh take on the hero shooter genre that we haven't really gotten to see in a really long time, and it feels like this game could genuinely give Overwatch 2 a run for its money. Throughout this game review, we're going to be pulling a lot of comparisons to Overwatch, since it's easily the most popular game in this genre, and we want to see what Marvel Rivals does better and what it does worse. We're going to be splitting this video up into a few sections. First, we're going to talk about the overall gameplay, then we're going to move on to the aesthetics of the game, and then finally, we're going to talk about some miscellaneous stuff like how fair its live service model is, and a few other things before we move into my closing thoughts. A little context though on my experience of Marvel Rivals before we begin the video is that I played this game all the way back in its first closed beta, and since then I've played somewhat consistently in all the following betas until the full release of the game, which I've been grinding non-stop in both solo play and with friends. But with that out of the way, let's get into the game review, where we're going to ask the question, is Marvel Rivals the Overwatch killer? Also, you should totally like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. Okay, thank you, bye! So put simply, the gameplay for Marvel Rivals is very, very good. So for the uninformed, the way Rivals works is that it pits two teams of 6 against each other, where the goals for each match is standard hero shooter stuff, you know, capturing a point and charging it to 100%, or escorting a payload, or a little mix of both. This is pretty standard activities for a hero shooter, but Marvel Rivals does a few things that separate it from the rest of the competition that also feel fresh and innovative. To begin with, majority of the maps feature breakable walls, bridges, and more. This results in moments where you're actually able to destroy enemy cover that they might have hid behind because they were really weak, or destroying parts of the maps that allows you an easier approach to the point. But it's not just destructible environments. Some maps have walls that can be extended or attracted by shooting them. Some maps even change the entire layout of the level as the point gets more and more captured. It's features like these and many more that make you think, like, why aren't these in similar games? Because these interactable environments, while they don't affect the course of the entire match that much, still act as a mechanic that rewards the player for learning and engaging with it, letting high-level gameplay be a lot more satisfying when you compare it to low-level ranks. I will say though, something that's sorta linked to these ever-changing battle environments is that sometimes these events will happen, where things like the capture point will be covered in fire, or sometimes like hallways will get a smoke screen, and just other things like that, and honestly, these are just sort of mid. Like, they barely ever actually impact the gameplay in a positive way, and 90% of the time, they're just annoying, or just tank your FPS. Like, god, some of these events just absolutely tank your frames. And in the middle of a team fight, that's like the last thing you really want happening. But we'll talk more about the performance of the game throughout the video. The actual quality of the maps themselves are a little bit of a mixed bag, to be honest, but like, I feel like that's the case for most online games, not just hero shooters. But if we're using an example here, let's look at Overwatch. You get maps like King's Row, which are just the absolute GOAT, but then you just get shit like fucking Numbani, which is just like the worst map ever to fucking grace this earth. And that's being generous from me, honestly. But anyway, moving back to Rivals, for the most part, every map is pretty balanced for both sides of the teams. Most capture points are all serviceable, and there's pretty much no map among the pool where I just dread getting. Except maybe the Hell's Heaven map, where the height of the point can like change, meaning it can be really hard to take the point back if the enemy team is set up on the point while it's moving to high ground. It is absolutely brutal trying to advance on a point or push a payload up a steep checkpoint in this game, and it's pretty much the main defining feature for whether a map is good or mid in my opinion. I think this might just be because I haven't been able to play in high-ranked lobbies yet, so it might just be a problem with my rank, but I feel like most full holds on maps happen when the defending team have control over a strong high ground or a narrow choke. That is another little negative about maps, is that there are a few of them feel surprisingly claustrophobic. But I think that's more so to do with the fact that there's 12 players on a battlefield at any time, rather than the actual map design itself. Especially since this claustrophobia is sorta solved once you start breaking the destroyables in the map. Speaking more on the maps, specifically the escort ones, I really like the fact that you need to capture the payload in order for it to move, and that the enemy needs to capture it to start pushing it back. I think it allows a lot more team play in a match, because you don't need one person in the team to just sit back and do nothing on card. However, even though you don't need anyone on the payload once it's captured, it still does move really slow without anyone on it. So it does create that nice push and pull dynamic where you need to decide how many people to send up to create space and how many to stay back and whatnot. It's also interesting to mention that during overtime, the timer still counts down and will stop on 1%, unlike Overwatch where every time it's triggered it resets the value. And the way that Marvel Rival handles it makes these overtime fights so much more stressful, and some people might see that as a bad thing, but I really like it. I've had a few games where we've had overtime fights that have lasted for like way longer than a minute, and these fights are easily some of the most fun I've had in not just Marvel Rivals, but just in online games altogether. This overtime timer isn't the only thing though that makes these fights stressful, because the area that you can actually contest a payload or objective is incredibly small compared to Overwatch, so it really becomes a bit of a clusterfuck on the point, because one person walking just a meter away can be all it takes for the overtime to end. Last thing I want to talk about concerning the maps in this game is the fact that between rounds and capture maps, you actually keep your ultimate percentage, meaning if you had your ult and didn't use it, you would have it available for the next round. This aspect of gameplay has had me the most confused on, as I can't tell if I actually like it or not. On one hand, I think it creates an interesting dynamic of knowing when to give up on a point in order to have a more favourable matchup for the next round. But on the other hand, if a team is just destroying you on one point, and then you're just going to go into the next match and they still have 3 ults to use, and that just feels super unfair to your team. I also feel like being able to save ults takes away from those last ditch effort overtime fights where everyone's clawing desperately to try and win the point. Again, still not super sure my opinion on this aspect of the game, but I don't think it ruins any aspect of gameplay, far from it. This is just one thing that I can kinda see why other hero shooters don't do. So all in, the maps in Marvel Rivals are all pretty dang good. They feel pretty innovative in some parts, but also display some sort of mid aspects that just plague the shooter genre. I am though very excited to see more maps in the future, both just to see what new mechanics they come up with, along with just having more maps to actually play, because I know the game only just came out, but there's not that big of a selection of maps right now. Okay, time to talk about some of the characters now, and oh boy, there are a lot of characters, 33 to be exact. That is just an insane amount to launch the game with. Even though the ratio of characters to roles is a little bit unbalanced. To touch on this for a second, the game decided to launch with an astronomical amount of DPS compared to both tanks and supports, or what they're called in the game, duelists, vanguards, and strategists. This large influx of duelist characters, combined with the fact that most of the popular / fan fave characters are duelists, leads the majority of people wanting to play duelists. This is fine in itself, because duelists are probably the funnest class to play, but with the lack of role queue, it results in most people just insta-locking duelists as soon as they load in, forcing the last 2ish people to have to go vanguard / strategist in order not just to throw the match. This problem isn't as prevalent in higher rank play from what I've seen, as most people know how to play various characters from various roles, but for lower ranks, it's definitely a prevalent problem that I thought I would mention. Anyways, to actually talk about the characters themselves, purely from a gameplay perspective, they are all pretty much amazing. Each individual character manages to stay faithful to their source material while also feeling and playing totally distinct from every other character currently in the game. A really big distinguish in the character gameplay is the more brawl heavy designs compared to something like Overwatch. In Overwatch, many heroes play in that sort of mid-range, with some being able to play that close range briefly or the long range. However, in Marvel Rivals, pretty much every character excels in that close range combat, with many being able to also play that sort of mid-range, especially strategists. This brawly type of gameplay results in some insanely fun team fights, where these teams of people are just absolutely going at it with each other, instead of, in Overwatch where half the team has to play a corner in order not to get their head blown off by a Widowmaker. There are a few exceptions to this, like Hawkeye and Black Widow, but even so, it feels a lot more beneficial to play them in that mid-range with the rest of the team, as due to many strategists or duelists being brawl, flanking and getting a kill is quite easy for them. However, having a team of 6 people really helps circumvent some of these flanks just a little bit. Another factor of team composition though is the inclusion of team up abilities, where certain characters, when they're on the same team, actually attain an additional ability to use, and these are really cool. Some of them are definitely better than others though, like for example the foreign Captain America one, which lets Captain America shoot lightning, and it just makes his character like twice as good to be honest, But other than that, they did a pretty good job at balancing these abilities, because characters still feel perfectly usable and fun without their team up, while also not feeling giga broken with them, even when fighting against them. This bit's a huge plus side, as most times in hero games, heroes will have abilities that are just so unfun to play against, and Marvel Rivals definitely has some of those, but these are very far and few between, which is very impressive considering the sheer amount of abilities in the game currently. This one might be a little bit of a negative, but some heroes just have so many abilities that it's definitely a little bit overwhelming to learn for new players, especially since the star difficulty they give some characters just straight up isn't correct. Like, Psylocke is considered a 5-star difficulty, when in reality she's actually really simple to play, whereas Mantis is only a 1-star difficulty, when she has just a ton of abilities and also resources she needs to manage in a match. Alright, let's talk about some of the characters individually now, which ones I liked and I think were well designed, and some others that aren't so much. Now obviously, I'm not going to cover all of the characters, because that's like a video in itself, so I'm just going to cover a few of my faves and ones that I have a strong opinion about. Starting with Doctor Strange. Now this guy's design is just absolutely incredible, both visually and fundamentally. He has an amazing learning curve, being easy to play but challenging and rewarding to master. He just has so many little mechanics that play into the result of a match, like being able to cancel his reload early, storing dark energy and then deciding when to use it or keep it, even though if you keep it for long enough it gives you an anti-heal effect when kept at full power, as well as his portal, which just has infinite uses and is also on a super long cooldown, so getting value out of it is incredibly important. So yeah, just easily one of the best hero designs in not just this game, but just hero shooters in general. Good job, guys. Penny Parker. So Penny is really interesting. I couldn't tell you the last online game that I played where there was a hero that was just so favored for defense. It's just crazy. Like, sure, you could play her on attack, but she just excels so well at defending points and not much else. It's really interesting to see. Also, her having a projectile web that can cancel pretty much any ultimate and it's on a 4-second cooldown, it's sorta criminal, I can't lie. But yeah, they gotta be really careful balancing Penny, because I can see her just becoming an absolute nuisance if she just gets one good buff. Magneto. So Magneto is really good in just terms of his raw performance, like his abilities deal good damage and provide good value to his team. However, my issue lies more in his design visually. Like, for someone who can, control metal and whatnot, his abilities are pretty boring. Like, I feel like there were so many cool things they could have done with this concept, but instead he just does things like give a little purple shield or just making big balls of metal and hurling them places. It's not like I think he needs a rework or anything, like I said, he performs fine enough. I just think he's a little boring is all. But I do hope we get to see some cool things with him in the future with stuff like team-up abilities. Venom. So Venom really encapsulates just the general vibe of gameplay the developers were going for, being this super brawl-heavy hero shooter with heroes that are easy to learn but hard to master, and Venom just does this perfectly. He's surprisingly easy to pick up and play for a first time, but still offers enough depth to continue wanting to play and learn him. Also, Venom is just incredibly cheeked up, like god damn. Hawkeye. Ooh, yeah, I don't know why they thought this guy would be a good idea. Even now, as I'm writing the script, he still hasn't been nerfed. I'm still in the mind that one-shot abilities and resurrects shouldn't be in any hero games, or shooters, or team games, or just whatever. These things are just never fun to fight against. The resurrection issue though is actually handled somewhat well in Marvel Rivals, with Adam Warlock and Rocket's revives not just being, free revives with 0 counters, but I can't say the same about Hawkeye's one-shot. He's never fun to fight against, and there's a reason he's pretty much always insta-banned in ranked play. I think nerf his one-shot, and then buff his secondary explosive fire, and then he should still be pretty decent to play, and less cancerous to fight against. Hela. I feel like I can't talk about Hawkeye without also talking about Hela. I honestly believe Hela is the less annoying of the two to fight, but I definitely still see the hatred towards her. I don't know, it's just her abilities feel like they have just a little bit more counterplay compared to Hawkeye, where he just, deals half a tank's HP in one shot. Don't get me wrong, Hela definitely needs a nerf alongside Hawkeye, but I don't know, I feel like she's just really good right now because burst damage is sort of the meta at the moment. So I feel like if the meta shifts, she might not be as good. Also, it's still incredibly fun to block her ultimate with Doctor Strange. Moon Knight. Probably the coolest character design in the game. Moon Knight is both incredibly cool to look at, while also being incredibly fun to play. He was definitely one of those heroes that was so busted on launch day, because no one knew what he did or how to play around it. Nowadays though, it's definitely a little harder to get value with, because people know to shoot his pylons, and they also realize how bad his ult is, and how you can, just pretty much walk away from it and you'll be fine. But that still doesn't take away from how fun he is to play. And I mean, just look at him. He's so cool, oh my god. Pretty much all the character designs go hard in this game, but this one especially is just awesome. Psylocke. So Psylocke is one of those heroes that myself and many others were scared to try due to that 5-star difficulty rating. But honestly, she is surprisingly simple and just easy to learn. I think the difficulty rating is more in line with how you're supposed to play her, rather than just the difficulty of her skills. This being said though, she is extremely fun to play. She feels super rewarding, and it's especially satisfying when you manage to combo a squishy target with your abilities. And then her ult, this one is really hit or miss, because it either does absolutely nothing, or it kills free and it's super satisfying. It's definitely one of those ults where you need to force support cooldowns first before using it, because if you don't, you're just going to finish your ult and have killed no one, and be in the middle of like 4 people and just die immediately. Also... her character design is pretty good. Storm. What a sad hero. She was mediocre in the first few betas, and she still is just mediocre now. According to stats from the devs, she is by far the least played hero. In my opinion, she is the only hero in the game that is actually in need of a rework. They either need to really hone down on her damaging abilities, or just rework into a strategist instead. She also desperately needs more survivability. As like Iron Man, she can just fly all the time, but unlike Iron Man, she barely has any movement abilities or escape tools, so she can just get beamed out of the sky. I don't really have much else to talk about with her, as I literally couldn't tell you the last time I won against her in a match, but yeah, easily the biggest miss out of the hero roster. Winter Soldier. So Bucky is the encapsulation of fun. Having a good game on Bucky is like straight crack. He reminds me a lot of OG DPS Doomfist, in the way he has a combo that when you land it, pretty much guarantees a kill. Also his ultimate, oh my, it's always the funnest mechanic when a character refunds an ability after getting a kill with it. It always feels so rewarding, and as you've probably seen all over social media, you can refund Bucky's ult infinitely as long as there are people alive. Very, very fun hero. Adam Warlock. Now this guy's an interesting one. He simultaneously has some of the strongest healing mechanics, as well as some of the weakest as well, which is really interesting to see when comparing him to the rest of the strategist cast. On one hand, he has insanely strong AoE healing and access to strong burst damage, along with an ult that can resurrect people, even if it is only a portion of their health. But on the other hand, he has 0 movement abilities, along with 0 disengage abilities, or just anything to ward off getting dived or flanked. And the biggest negative, not having any healing on a primary or secondary fire, meaning if both of his healing cooldowns aren't up, he literally just can't heal. It's such an interesting character design, and he's easily one of the hardest heroes in this game to play, and that makes me really excited to try and learn him more. Cloak and Dagger. This is my favorite hero in the game. She, or should I say they, because it's 2 people in 1 kit, are so fun to play, and I feel like I can win games solely by playing them. That's how good / fun I think they are. The only other hero I really get this feeling with is Doctor Strange. So anyway, Dagger is your standard healer. She has both good single target and team healing, and can output a serious amount of healing. But where this character really comes to life is Cloak's side. Cloak acts as a disruptor rather than a healer, getting a primary with significant damage output, a binding ability, and my favorite and I think his best ability, his team-wide cloak, which makes teammates in the vicinity of the ability immune to damage and CC for a short amount of time. This means you can cancel pretty much any ultimate with his ability, especially ones like Jeff's ult or Iron Man's or Magneto's, with only a few outliers not being able to be countered this way, like Groot's ult. I definitely understand if people say they're just a little bit boring to play, because I feel the same way about Jeff the Shark, and I know a lot of people love playing Jeff. But I don't know, I just feel like Cloak and Dagger are both incredibly fun to play, and also let me have a significant impact on the match, even though I'm just playing a strategist. So yeah, very well designed character. Good job developers. Rocket Raccoon. Yeah, this guy is just really boring to play, I'm sorry. And after playing him for a decent amount of time, I think I figured out why. Rocket literally plays exactly like Mercy from Overwatch. And this is me personally, don't get mad at me. I think Mercy is really boring to play. So Rocket pretty much only uses his healing fire, as his gun is not only hard to land bullets with, it literally does like 0 damage. He has a res with his pylon thing, he has a damage boost ult, he has a quick movement ability and a short cooldown. He literally plays so much like Mercy, and I don't know, for me that just makes him so boring to play. Luna Snow and Mantis. I'm lumping these two together just because I want to briefly talk about both their ultimates. In no universe should these things make the entire team invincible, let alone for more than 10 seconds. It feels literally impossible to kill anybody in either of these ultimates, and I think that's just super unhealthy for the game. It's sort of a difficult thing to approach, because I think all the support ultimates are a little too strong, but if you nerf all of them, you risk making support not as much fun to play, which is especially an issue in this game, where majority of the player base already just want to play duelists instead. The ults can still be strong, but having it pretty much be enough healing to keep someone alive unless the entire team is shooting at them is just a little bit too much in my opinion. So yeah, for the most part, Marvel Rivals has incredibly fun and well designed heroes, both visually and mechanically, which is obviously extremely important for a hero shooter to be a good, well, hero shooter. It's literally in the name. I do think a select few of the heroes do feel just a tad bit awkward or clunky to use, but I think these moments are just growing pains of the game and will be ironed out quickly. One point of topic I feel like I should mention now though is the developer's approach to CC or crowd control. So we know that one of the biggest reasons for Overwatch 2 was to completely get rid of most CC in the game, which they've sorta now backpedaled on, but that's not what we're talking about. In Marvel Rivals, they do not give a shit about putting CC in their heroes' kits. Many if not most characters have a form of stun or movement lock that they can use on their opponent, with some of these stuns lasting multiple seconds, which doesn't sound like a lot, but during a team fight, those seconds matter. I've seen both sides of this argument, with some people not minding it while others saying it's the reason they're not going to continue playing, and I think that opinion is a fair one, but I honestly don't mind the abundance of CC. I think the addition of an additional teammate compared to Overwatch 2 allows for more support if you're caught by an ability, and I think these abundance of CCs allows backline units an easy deterrent to prevent flankers, which there is quite a lot of due to the brawly style of heroes. Something I will say though that is a little bit too powerful that I don't see a lot of people talking about are shields. Heroes like Magneto and Doctor Strange have shields in their kits, and these things are absolutely vital to survivability. They're able to cancel multiple ults, CCs, and just most abilities in general. This design isn't inherently bad, but it just makes tanks like 4 feel a lot harder to use or get value of when I can just play Magneto and do what 4 wants to do but just better. I think heroes like Strange should have their shield break apart a little bit when it gets low HP, because the way it is right now feels just a little bit too oppressive. But overall, I'm extremely impressed with the gameplay of Marvel Rivals. I'm really glad they decided to try and innovate and create something that the genre hasn't really seen before, because the hero shooter genre was starting to get extremely stale, with only Overwatch really being the biggest name, and they aren't exactly really innovating on anything right now, are they? Do I think the gameplay in Marvel Rivals as it is perfect? Hell no, it's far from it. Do I think the gameplay is as tight or smooth as its main competitor Overwatch? Also no, but what Marvel Rivals has is an incredibly solid base to work off of now. And I think in the coming months, we're going to see the game really start to take shape and become something nearly perfect. Because even now, the game has consistently had 100,000 plus players because the gameplay is extremely fun, albeit just a little bit clunky sometimes. So unless some executives make some greedy, stupid changes to the game, I think Marvel Rivals is going to be sticking around for a good while. Alright, let's move on and talk about something else for a little bit. That something else being... Holy beautiful, this game is shit. Holy shit, this game is beautiful. This game was made using Unreal Engine 5, and both you and your PC can really feel it. But before we talk about the fidelity and quality of the assets in game, I want to talk about the overall design of the game. Because yes, the people who made all of the assets for the game are all extremely talented, but so are the design team. Let's talk about the character designs real quick. I know I already briefly talked about this, but I want to talk about it again. Like, how can I not? Every single hero in this game looks absolutely beautiful, awesome, peak, just any describing word you want to use. How does this game launch with over 30 characters and every single one looks as cool as they do? I hate to bring up Overwatch again, but like, Marvel Rival releases with all these cool character designs and their response is to reveal Hazard. I'm only half joking about ripping on Hazard here. I think his character design is fine, like, it's perfectly serviceable, but it's just the way he holds himself. There's just nothing of substance to him. I don't know. Anyway, back to Rivals. I love how every hero is super recognizable as their source material, while also still feeling like something new and also feeling in theme for the universe the game is establishing. Something about the way the armor and stuff looks is just so satisfying to look at. Then obviously heroes like Moon Knight, Doctor Strange, and Jeff are just so incredibly well done. These characters are some of the most popular heroes to One Trick, just purely off their design alone. You know the design department is doing something right when people want to base their whole in-game personality off of cool looking heroes rather than the actual gameplay. Even though their gameplay is also incredibly fun. And this is only their default skins we're talking about here, because the skins for these guys are just as good, if not even better. Like, I'm just going to show some skins on screen right now, because there's so many that are just peak. And there's so many now that have been leaked that will come out soon, and oh my god, these are just fucking insane. I will say though, a little problem I see with these skins, as well just the overall design of the heroes, is that sometimes it's hard to distinguish what hero the enemy is actually playing during a team fight. My number one example of this is Captain America wearing his Gladiator skin. I confuse him for Thor so often while they're wearing this skin. And I think this is a problem that's actually handled really well in Overwatch, being a character's silhouette. So Overwatch puts an insane amount of effort in creating strong and unique silhouettes for their characters, so they're easily distinguishable in the midst of a team fight, no matter what skin they actually have equipped. See, I think Marvel Rivals does an okay job at creating unique and distinguishable silhouettes, but it's not nearly at the same level of Overwatch, and I find myself often confusing heroes for others during a match, something that doesn't really happen in Overwatch much. So, good job Overwatch! That puts the score at 1 to Overwatch, and yeah, let's just keep talking about Rivals. It's not just the character designs that slap though. The maps, regardless of the level design, visually are also beautiful and more importantly, tonally distinct from each other. All the Wakanda maps actually feel like Wakanda maps and they feel extremely separated from the Tokyo maps, which I think is really important in keeping player retention, as it makes the game feel less repetitive, especially right now since there's not a massive amount of maps in the game currently. Also, we can't talk about the visuals without talking about the VFX, cause holy moly, these VFX are genuinely some of the best I've seen in any game, and it really takes the game visually from being incredibly solid to innovative and a new industry standard. The comic book style the game has gone for here comes across so incredibly well, and lets the game stand out amongst its competition excellently. Where the game really starts to shine though is the MVP intros, which I'm going to show a few of now, cause like, look at these things. Everything to the animation, to the VFX, to the fucking impact frames. These intros are such a bonus for this game. Literally every single skin comes with a unique intro for that character. And some of the more premium skins even come with an intro animation just to showcase the skin. Like, I know it's easy to brag on Overwatch, but look at the kind of highlight intros they've been making recently. Then put that next to the Marvel Rivals one, and it's just actually insane the quality difference. But even putting aside the intros, all the abilities in the game have amazing VFX that feel unique to each character and help add impact and weight to all the abilities used by the heroes. Especially some heroes like Wolverine, Iron Man, and Star-Lord all feel incredibly satisfying to use because of not only these amazing VFX, but also surprisingly good sound design. A lot of attacks feel quite weighty and impactful due to the amazing sound effects paired to each unique ability. The main negative about the sound design though, is that ally footsteps are quite loud for some reason, so sometimes I think an enemy is like flanking me due to the loud footsteps, but it's actually just my teammate instead. But while we're talking about the negatives, we have to talk about possibly the worst quality of Marvel Rivals. However, I'm fairly certain this is only a problem for PC players. Of course, I'm talking about the performance of the game. because with all the benefits that come with the game being made on Unreal Engine 5, also comes an unoptimized final version. So firstly, this game is an absolute mess trying to play on a hard drive. Menus are difficult to move through quickly, and more importantly, it takes absolutely ages to try and load into a match. So long that most of the time, in quick play, the match will start before you're even loaded in. So honestly, it's almost required to play the game on an SSD. A trait that's starting to become a really common thing in new AAA games. But this itself isn't that big an issue. Is it annoying? Yes, but it's workable. What isn't workable is the game's god-awful performance. Now, I'll admit, I don't have an absolutely godly PC, but it sure as hell ain't bad. I can run most new games anywhere from 60 to 144 frames quite easily. But with Marvel Rivals, I'm lucky if I get 60 frames, especially in a team fight. With a total of 12 people in the battlefield, all with really high fidelity models and expansive movesets and lots of VFX, the game just really struggles to even consistently stay above 30 frames during a team fight, which let me tell you, is the absolute worst time to have your game lag. Some abilities in particular though are absolute frame eaters, like Doctor Strange's Portal, Lunastar's ult when people use the scroll reel trick, Adam Warlock's ult. Honestly, whenever people just use more than like 4 ults at once, it's enough to tank the performance. That's just the heroes though. Whenever those stupid stage hazard events happen, they usually contribute a fair chunk to performance issues, especially the fire one. Also when the stage shifts, or a large chunk of the environment is destroyed, pretty much anything that happens in this game contributes to making the game lag. And it wouldn't be that bad if you're just looking at all these things in a vacuum, but during a match, all these different things are happening simultaneously. So like I said before, this makes it really hard to actually do what you want in a team fight. Because a lot of the time, it's just really hard to actually tell what's happening because your game's lagging too much. This lack of optimization is honestly my biggest problem with the game, because it feels like I'm actively harming my PC whenever I play Rivals. Like, I can hear the fans start putting in overtime and my case gets super hot. And that's without stuff like OBS recording or Spotify open. That's just what happens with only the game open. I really hope we see some sort of improvements to performance in Season 1, but honestly, I don't even know if that sort of thing is possible with Unreal Engine 5 games. As much as I love UE5, you can't deny the fact that pretty much every AAA game that uses it suffers from performance issues. It's such a difficult thing to talk about, because yeah, the game does run like absolute dog water, but like I've been saying, lots of very talented people have been working on this game and spent hours making everything look absolutely amazing. It just sucks that we can't both have our cake and eat it. And as much as I adore everything visually about the game, I think I would have taken better performance if that meant sacrificing some of the fidelity of the game. Also, there are options you can change in like the program files of the game, but not only does that make the game just look absolutely awful, the dev team said not to fool around with any of that stuff just in case something goes wrong. So all in all, the visuals for this game are just absolutely amazing in pretty much every aspect. The 3D models are professionally done and look stunning. Both character and environmental design has been masterfully crafted by a team of talented people that really care, paired alongside a comic book art style and VFX that give the game and its characters so much personality. Along with snippets of 2D art as well that just blends in perfectly with these 3D animations. I wish I could end the section with that, but sadly, these amazing visuals come at the cost of performance of the game, with significant enough issues to where they are apparent in almost all aspects of gameplay. Like I said, these performance issues are honestly my biggest gripe with the game right now, and I'm really hoping that some of these problems can be ironed out by the dev team. Okay, before we move on to my closing thoughts, I have one more section of the video where we're just going to talk about the live service part of the game. I promise it's more interesting than how it sounds. So first off, I want to talk about the monetization of the game, because I feel like that's something pretty important to discuss when giving a review of a live service game. So the exchange rate of real dollary dues for in-game currency is pretty standard for any live service game really. Now, I'm not here to tell anyone how they should spend their money or what I think is a fair price or expensive, but what I will do is compare it to purchasing skins in Overwatch. So it's pretty similar to Overwatch prices, around 2,400 skins for a premium skin bundle. The main difference is the content. For Overwatch, you get the skin, then whatever was made alongside the skin. That can be anything from an emote, highlight intro, spray, banner, anything really, any combination of those. With Rivals, you get the skin, and then you always get an MVP intro unique to that skin with a spray, emote, and icon. Rivals also takes the win, because this not only is for the premium skins, there's also just regular skins that are only 1600 premium coins, but still include all the things I mentioned previously. Along with the fact that Marvel Rivals is, a third person game, so you can actually see your skins. Also, that all the skins are just super high quality and look amazing. I think Rival definitely takes the win here. By the way, this is not to say that Overwatch skins are bad at all, because most of them are actually pretty good, if not great. I'm just trying to compare here. However, Overwatch highlight intros have gone to the trash recently, so I don't feel bad. Rivals also has an earnable currency like Overwatch. However, in Rivals, you can exchange this currency 1-for-1 with the premium one, meaning you can actually earn shop skins completely for free, even if this does take a little while. So moving on to the Battle Pass segment, because literally every live service game needs to have a Battle Pass. That's what makes it a live service game. But Rivals Battle Pass has some really good things going for it, while also having a few weird design choices. So to start with the good, the Battle Pass has a decent amount of premium currency. It's not enough to be able to refund the Battle Pass completely so you can buy the next one, but it's still a decent amount. I wish it was enough to just continuously keep buying the next Battle Pass, but there are multiple other online games where you just straight up get no premium currency, so some praise is definitely deserved for this. Obviously, the actual content in the Battle Pass is amazing. The skins are absolutely gorgeous, and yes, there are definitely some that are better than others, but there wasn't a single skin that I didn't want in the Battle Pass. The only thing that's sort of weird is that the final tier in the Battle Pass is just a piece of art. And yeah, the art is really good, but it's just art that doesn't do anything, and you have to spend your Battle Pass currency to actually unlock it. This is sort of the weird thing about the Marvel Rivals Battle Pass. You don't level it up for XP, you get Battle Pass currency exclusively from doing missions, and then you use this currency to unlock what you actually want from the Battle Pass. So on one side, it's really nice that you get to choose what you want to unlock first, which is definitely really good. The downside is though that this currency is, like I said, only unlocked by doing missions, like your daily challenges and seasonal missions and such. You literally get zero progress on your Battle Pass from just playing regular games. And I'm saying this because I put almost 30 hours in this game on the opening weekend, and I barely completed one page of the Battle Pass, and that's just a little bit insane if you ask me. So many new games do this thing where to progress the fastest, they want you to log in and just do your daily missions, and that always just feels awful, like I'm not playing a mobile game. So I really hope they change it in the future. Just something like 5 coins from playing a game, and then another 5 if you win the game. Just something so that you're always making progress, even if you're not choosing to do the missions. However, probably one of the best bits about the Battle Pass is that they never expire, so once Season 1 begins, you can still unlock stuff from the Season 0 Battle Pass if you want. Sadly though, every new season resets your Battle Pass currency amount, so you can't just save up coins for the next season, which is sorta understandable, but losing all of your coins feels a little bit bad, I won't lie. Also, the Battle Pass is pretty standard price. The first one we got was half price, but that's because it was only half a Battle Pass, so that's fine. One thing they've done really well so far was the first event thing they did. So for Christmas, they released 5 winter skins along with a Splatoon game mode, and by playing this event for not too long honestly, you could get a free Jeff the Shark skin, and this skin is really good. They easily could have just given the Magic or the Rocket Raccoon skin for free, which are both still good skins by the way, but plenty of people would have bought the Jeff skin straight away, so them giving it away for free is pretty swag. The Twitch drops for the season weren't too bad either, only like 4 hours needed to get everything. One thing that was really poor though was the streamer event they held. So basically there were periods where if you queued against a streamer in quick play, you could get any store skin for free. But this was just poorly designed, because it literally just led to people leaving games and doing nothing but trying to stream snipe the streamers, which is just not fun for anyone involved. It should have been something like you only have to play a certain amount of games while the streamer was playing, and maybe you could unlock a skin for that streamer's one trick or something. Another thing that the dev team have been doing that's really appreciated is the in-game tournaments, where literally anyone can make a team and join the play, with actual cash prizes as well. Doing this so early gives me a lot of faith for the vision that the devs have for the longevity of the game. And having the rewards be actual cash prizes rather than just like, in-game currency is something they easily could have not done, but they did, and it just shows that the devs actually care about the community somewhat. One thing I will say though, is that while Season 0 had a lot of bug fixes, we haven't gotten one balance patch so far, which hasn't really been that bad this season, because people are still figuring out the meta, because like, heroes like Iron Man, Wolverine, and Hulk were considered some of the worst heroes at the start of the season, but now these guys are like some of the top picks. And while heroes like Hawkeye and Hela really need nerfs, the banned pick system in high ranks sorta off-puts this issue just a little bit. I'm just trying to say, while I understand why there hasn't been a balance patch yet, I hope this doesn't mean they're against putting out hotfixes for heroes whenever needed. They've also put out a number of surveys so far to fill out, and I really hope they take a lot of the advice given, because with games like these, the community, most of the time, know what they're talking about and know what they want. So yeah, while this game has a few growing pains with some of the live service systems they put in place, what online game doesn't on launch? I just hope in a few months' time these issues will all be ironed out. But how the game operates in its first full season is really going to set the tone in future for the game. And I can't lie, I'm excited to see what they do. I have quite high expectations. I have a lot of faith in this game. I think it's easily the best hero shooter we've gotten in a very long time. So many of these new online games have been coming out recently that just fade into nothingness so quickly. And yes, you can say that the Marvel IP is carrying the game, but I only think that's half true. I mean, just look at Multiverses. That game has a pretty solid IP, but it's just dead in the water. Marvel Rivals is clearly made by a team of talented people that have a lot of knowledge on what makes a game like this fun, and what the community wants in a hero shooter. Even if this game does end up dying in the next few months, which I don't see happening, and I really don't want to happen, this game is easily the most competition Overwatch has had in such a long time. So while I don't see myself ever going back to Overwatch while Marvel Rivals is still thriving, I hope the team there start to get up off their own asses and really start to innovate on their game that's been feeling so stale recently. Of course, I couldn't go 2 fucking minutes at the end of the video without mentioning Overwatch yet again, but anyways, Marvel Rivals, very good. A little awkward in some places, but I have a lot of faith that these issues will slowly start to get ironed out. The game is also free, so if this video hasn't convinced you yet, go play the game. There's literally no reason not to play. But so, anyways, is this game really the Overwatch killer? I don't think so, no. But is it the best competition Overwatch has had in a very long time? 100% yes. I feel like these two games will be going at it for a long time. Anyways, I've been Big Leaflet, and this has been a Marvel Rivals game review.